All right, welcome to another episode of Panakal, a podcast for geeks, a show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. Today I have with me Brian Colin and David LaRocca, who are the creators of Vast Grimm. And we're going to talk about Vast Grimm and the process of how they put it all together. I'm actually one of the artists involved in it, so I said let's do an interview and let's have some fun with it. Welcome to the show, guys. I think this is Brian's third time, maybe, and this is David's first time.
Yeah, man. It's my first time. You've just asked me a bunch.
Oh, okay, is it? No, we did one. We did a Kickstarter one.
Did we?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we did. I don't think I've ever made it. You asked me a bunch, and I'm like, no, I've got to go do stuff with the kids because it's always like on the weekend when the kids are always trying to pull me in all sorts of directions.
So you're telling me you just basically made up excuses not to be on the show. Got it.
I haven't made them up. They've been legit excuses.
I think Alan had dreams about you being on the show.
No, I guarantee you, if I look on the show, there's a Kickstarter video that Brian was on because you did the interview. You interviewed me.
Oh, that was at the very beginning when you first started. Okay, yeah, totally.
That would be like episode 1. I needed some help.
That one counts.
Okay, yeah.
I'm getting a little audio lag on Brian. Let me know if anyone else notices that. But
I actually noticed it too. Am I lagging at all?
No, you're fine. You're the guy with the router problems, and you're fine.
Exactly. Let me quit out of some programs on here, and maybe that will. Oh, don't quit Discord. That would be bad.
Don't quit Discord. You'll drop out of the call. So let's all be thankful that David actually has a router that works, because there was a minute where we thought he wouldn't be able to do the show today.
Right.
So let's talk about Vast Grimm.
Vast Grimm.
There is still an audio lag. What's happening with your audio, man?
I don't know.
It's your Discord.
Is it?
You look like a character in a foreign film, basically, where the audio pops in seconds after you talk. So, okay, who wants to tell us what Vast Grimm is? Brian, I guess you should, since it's kind of your baby, right?
That's right.
Sure. Yeah. So Vast Grimm is a sci-fi horror RPG that's rules light. We built it off of the Merkborg system, which is a simple D20 system that just has 4 attributes for rolling. It's set in the future where the universe is coming to its end. And you are one of the last few of humanity that's either trying to survive and fight off these giant parasitic worms that are infecting everyone, or trying to find a way out of the universe to somewhere that maybe it's a little bit better and maybe you won't have such a horrible experience.
Yeah, and it's
currently on GameFound.
Oh, I should probably mention that. It is on GameFound right now.
On GameFound.
Only for a few more days.
Till next Tuesday, right?
Yep.
You got a lot of backers, man. You have 4 days left, it says. You got a lot of backers. That's pretty impressive.
The timing's a little... Thanks. The timing's a little odd because GameFound is based in Poland. So, like, their days are even though we have it set up to end Tuesday night, which would be 8:30 Central, it seems weird, like the way the days click over is a little bit off.
Sure.
But we're also the first RPG to ever be crowdfunded on GameFound because they're still in their beta phase, and before this, it's all been board games.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to ask you about that because there was a Hellboy book that I saw on there that I had helped fund, I guess. But I guess it's not, maybe it's not an RPG. Maybe it's just a book.
No, they use that for they first started as a pledge manager.
Oh, okay.
So they've had RPGs that have pledge managed on there, but they expanded their offering to crowdfunding as well, and we're the first actual crowdfund on there.
Yeah, they haven't had a ton of projects on there, but the ones that they have had, for the most part, from what I've seen, have done really well. I mean, they've had several $1 million plus campaigns on here. I've got
I totally didn't remember GameFound when Brian had first mentioned it to me. And then I think I messaged you, Brian, because I was like, oh, apparently I pledged on this Hellboy one here like a year ago or whatever, right? So, But your guys, like, there's only a few that I see that do ridiculously well, and you guys are one of those ones. You're almost 400% funded, which is bravo.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. I wanted to talk about. So I did play a round. I played one round with you guys so far, which was pretty fun. And I got to say, like, you know, what the one thing I did really enjoy about Vast Grimm, and I mentioned this when we were playing, was you try to like you know, I come from one of my first RPGs was like Rifts and Macros and stuff, right, in high school, which is very like complex RPG playing.
Yep.
And then my second time like take into RPGs was D&D, like 3rd edition. And I didn't really get back into D&D again until 5th edition. And even then I was like, this is still a little rules heavy. Some people take this game too seriously. And there's a point where you're just like, you're kind of having fun playing it. Like, I still enjoy D&D, don't get me wrong. But the thing I enjoyed about Vast Grimm was it's kind of like, there are rules, obviously. You need to stick to those. But it's also a little bit more, there's a little bit of a feeling of freedom. Like, you can do a lot more without stressing yourself. Like, can I do this? Can't I do this? Like, you know, like if you're like in D&D, like if you want to do something specific, you could be like, you can't do that because of XYZ, or you don't have you got to roll for it, and then you're like doing the math for it, and then blah blah blah. But in this game,
you got to check page 238, paragraph
right.
4. You know,
and I liked how you only have like 4, like like 4 things to check. I think I rolled a dice, maybe. You know, we played for a good an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah. It was a little bit slow just because we had to slow.
We're all learning it. Yeah, I'm sure it'll go much faster.
Part of it was setting up on the. Yeah. So I think there weren't a ton of roles in your game, but also a lot of it is the rules are light and kind of streamlined, so that if you want to think of a way to do something, there's just a little bit of rolling to try and figure out if you're able to do it. Use your imagination to help make the rules work in the favor of the players, because the story is should always be about the characters that are there. It's not like the GM should set the stage and then the player should really find out like their characters, what they're trying to do in the universe.
It seems like there's enough rules to keep everything somewhat sane, but it encourages creativity, and the creativity of the players, but also the creativity of the GM on whether or not, you know, whatever the request is, or whatever that's wanting to be done can actually be done. And you know, I
mean, I saw like Brian was, you know, somebody would say I want to try whatever, and then Brian would like roll his dice on the side to make a call out to if such an action could be done, right? Like and that happened several times, but it all just kind of clicks into place as you're playing, and it was like a pretty easy transition. Like I actually enjoyed it because our group was fucking chaotic. Like, we did a lot of things where you're just like, I'm just gonna, like, at one point we're in the middle of a gunfight and my guy's like just looting people who are dead, like, instead of fighting, you know. And I'm just like, I guess that's what I'm gonna do, because in my head I was like, I was thinking of a scenario where, like, if I was playing a game of D&D, you would expect me to join in on the attack, right, and help your friends as you're battling whatever, a Balrog, you know. But in this game, like, your friends are fighting the dragon and you're just like, I'm gonna go pick this guy's pocket and see what he's got, and you're just like, that's the total opposite of what you should be doing.
Yeah, in Vast Grimm, you know, I mean, it could be a heroic campaign, I guess, but I mean, more realistic. This is down and dirty stuff a lot of times.
And characters have, like, a lot of what we've built into it is more descriptive things to give. Like, when you start with a base character, a lot of things that give your character personality traits that are just kind of awful, but they add a lot of flavor, and it almost gives players the incentive to, like, okay, I know I don't have a lot of hit points, I know the universe is ending, I'm going to go all the way with this character. It doesn't matter if they die, because no matter what, the universe is going to end anyway, so I might as well play it to the fullest. And so a lot of times it's like, well, I don't need to fight this person because there might be something good on this body down here that's going to help me survive another day.
Yeah, that was the other aspect. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the funny things in there is when you're rolling up your character, you roll and based on your role, you can end up with something awesome, or you could end up with something totally worthless. And I think one of the things that you can end up with is like pocket lint or something. And
Oh, really?
I want to roll that, and I want to figure out a way to make that useful. I will figure it out.
I didn't realize you can get. So like I got like what did my guy have? He had a fanny pack that could only
Yeah.
hold like
Yep.
3 items, and I was just like, cool. But then he was like this weird emo. He was an emo bot. That's what he was, and he was missing his whole jaw. And then at some point, I ended up like storing things inside my mouth because I was like, that's just what I'm gonna do. You know,
You put a key in one of the
I have
holes
the
of your
keys to
mouth.
the
Yep.
ship in my mouth. So if anybody needs to get away, they got to come at me first. But I also, what I was going to say was I enjoyed, like, I thought it was cool that you had that concept of, like, every day you roll to see if the universe is moving closer to closing out. Because then you kind of have this idea of, like, this is how it's going to end, regardless of however long it takes us to get to point X, that's going to happen at some point in your campaign. So it closes out, and then you start with new characters, and then you have some more fun again, right? Like, there's no... like I've heard of D&D campaigns that go like 10 years, you know,
Yep.
and you're
I
like,
mean, and this could feasibly last a long time if you rolled really well, because you could start it where the end of the universe is coming, but you roll a d20, and a torment only occurs if you roll a 1. But you
right.
can, as time goes on, you can reduce the die down to get closer and closer to the end. So you could feasibly roll really well and play a very long campaign. But part of the allure, I think, of it is knowing that it's coming to an end. So at least all the one shots we played, everybody's like between like a D6 and like a D2 that they want to roll on to see if a torment actually does occur.
Yeah.
And that mechanic we completely took from Merkborg, which the rules that we based off of, because they have the same thing where their world is dying. And so we
Okay.
just expanded it to the universe, and it changed it from what they have to our torments, and built it off of the our prophecies that we've created for the lore of this setting.
Okay. And that's a good idea. And some of this stuff, some of my questions might be a little repetitive to anyone who listened to the last interview with us, but I feel like I'm going to let my guests know. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about your backgrounds, so I can either start with David or Brian, whoever wants to go first. But I wanted
You can
the
go first,
audience
David.
talk about, like, you know, maybe what influenced you to be an artist, because obviously all three of us are artists. And then where you're at right now, because we all know you have Infinite Black, and then you also have work on this project as well. And I remember you were talking about some different things you did outside of your main flow for this project. So,
Yeah. Well, as far as my inspiration to become an artist, when I was a kid, I can remember like way back, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old or whatever. I just really enjoyed drawing and things and building things. And so my mom encouraged me with that, and, told me what it was, what an artist was. Like, I was just having fun drawing little
sure.
pictures and trains and stuff like that. And so then I found out that, they can be artists or whatever. So that kind of at that young age kind of made me realize that this was something I could be. I was either going to be an artist, a paleontologist, or an archaeologist. So,
Hey, same thing.
Nice.
Yeah. My dad told me there's
uh,
no money in hunting dinosaurs.
yeah, well, my dad told me there's no money in being an artist either. So,
That was there too. Dang
uh,
it.
so yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I stayed with it, and just did it for the love of it and everything. And when I was in probably middle school. Well, actually, no, I was younger than that. Elementary school um, uh, is around the time when NES and then Super NES were super hot, and fell in love with that. And I wanted to make video game art, and so I ended up going through school and continuing wanting to do that, and ended up going to school for 3D animation and modeling, and so I worked professionally as a modeler, animator, graphic artist, graphic design, all the things. And eventually realized that 3D was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed doing animation and everything. It was awesome. But after I got to a certain point, I kind of realized, I'm kind of done with this. I did it. I succeeded at it, and I kind of want to move on. And I just found myself constantly looking at illustration forums and things, and just the artwork was so amazing and so inspiring. And it's like, why don't I keep looking at this? Why don't I get back into this sort of thing and start doing this again? And so I started doing it, did pretty good. People liked it, started doing some conventions. One thing led to another. Ended up doing freelance and all that other stuff. And then a few years ago, that kind of led into creating Infinite Black, which Infinite Black was formed on the success of the Elder Dice campaign. So that was like this clash of these two worlds that were really important to me. The tabletop gaming world, which I've been doing since the late 90s, and my art world, it kind of meshed together and was in one project. And so it went really well. And so we created Infinite Black, and we've had several successful Kickstarters around Elder Dice, and now
Yes,
we've
you
got
have.
and now we've got Vast Grimm going on. And so been having a great time working on Vast Grimm. I've got different types of artwork in there, pen and ink. Actually just finished up a digital painting today. I realized today it's the first digital painting I've done in years.
Really?
Like a true digital painting. I've moved, totally over to traditional. And
Yeah.
I had to bust this out pretty quick, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go digital on it, and but it was fun. It was
I
nice.
gave David a timeline.
I mean, sometimes you got to crack the whip, man.
Right. So I've been talking.
It turned out so good.
Yeah.
It turned out so good. It's
I
the
can't wait to see
scariest
it.
thing in the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah.
But I could definitely go in depth on a lot of those things, but I'll pass it over to Brian so he can talk a little bit.
Sure. So let's see. So my becoming an artist thing. So somewhere in elementary school, I was introduced to comic books at the local comic book store, and by middle school, I was like, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna make comic books." One of my English teachers, though, had written in my yearbook in middle school about one day when I'm writing D&D adventures, wishing me luck on that. So early on, like right now, I'm living all of my childhood dreams by doing all the things that I enjoyed doing as a kid and continue to enjoy as an adult kid. But I went to college for comic book illustration at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and realized my illustration was not strong enough because that's just not who I am as far as that type of illustration. And I went into graphic design, where I then worked as a graphic designer from 97 on up. Somewhere in there in 99, I self-published my first 3-issue comic book miniseries. And then that did not have any success, really, except for doing the very first convention I had ever done, which was awesome to be behind the other side of the table. I also published an anthology that had 5 8-page stories in it, with friends of mine that I had met in college and some friends from high school. And then I didn't do that again until 2004, when I self-published another comic book series, a sci-fi western that I painted in watercolor, that I actually got distribution for through Diamond, but I'd only sell like 100 copies of each book, and there wasn't digital printing like there is today. So I sunk a whole lot of money into that, like 12 grand into just printing physical copies of my comic book.
That's a lot of money.
Right. Well, I ended up printing 4 issues. We didn't print issue 5 or 6 because I was just like sinking money into it. But I was living my dream. I was going to convention. I was on that side of the table. I was experiencing it. And, that's being able to fulfill a dream, even if you're not financially successful with it. You're still, it's then allowing your mind to open to what your next dream could be.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And it was after that I like needed a little more, something more immediate. And sometime around 2007, I started customizing toys by sculpting on them. And that then evolved into the sculptures that I make now. And the larger sculptures that are more fantasy driven is what took me to go to Dragon Con, to have a booth at Dragon Con, that then gave me the confidence to go to other conventions like Gen Con and have an artist table there, where I met David, who then we decided to carpool to a convention in Kansas City where I met you, Alan, and we all became friends. And through doing these conventions, I expanded my art while I was still doing graphic design, but I was able to, like, I was pushing back on the graphic design work, like the client work, the like senior living homes where you're doing brochures for them, and getting to do more and more of the design side of things that I like, designing my own products and pins and things like that. Starting to do little bits of freelance work for Infinite Black, up until the point where it was the right time for me to come on board with Infinite Black at the officially at the beginning of this year, but I had already been working a good bit at the end of last year with David. So that's kind of the evolution of my process, where now I'm still making sculptures and doing traditional art, but also intertwining the writing, the storytelling, and the graphic design all into every aspect of it.
So I want to say to you, first off, I was going to ask you, Brian, did you send that teacher a book?
No, I tried reaching. So I had posted that on Facebook like a year or so ago,
Sure.
like the photo of her, like her thing in my yearbook.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I tried reaching out to her and didn't get a response. One of my high school alumni had said that I should try and reach out because she's a teacher in that school district.
Okay.
But I just never heard back.
Someday, maybe. And
Yep.
I was going to say, you and I actually met at that same Gen Con, but apparently I didn't make an impression on you.
Well, you had come by the table and talked about me doing some sculpture of one of your characters.
I think David's the one who sent me over there, actually.
Okay.
Because I was like, really, like, I got ideas, but you definitely got ideas. Like, I felt like, man, I'm cranking out these ideas. I got all these things I want to do. I got to figure out how to make it happen. Whereas here's Brian over here. He comes up with an idea, and like 2 months later, it's happening. But like I was talking to David, I remember about what's that?
I go for it.
I get it. Like, and it would what the proof right there is the fact that you just said what you said about spending $12,000 to get your comic book made, right? Like, whereas like I would at that age, I was sitting here calculating, oh, am I about to spend this much money? Is this going to go anywhere? Until I got to like I totally agreed with your comment about sometimes you got to do the thing and then it leads to another thing, and the problem. It's not really a problem. It just scares everybody else around us, right? Like,
yep.
It's to us, it's like a normal thing for an artist to be like I just ordered 1,400 pins. You saw that, Brian, because you helped me with it, and everyone who saw me or heard that I ordered that many pins was like, "Are you fucking crazy?" And I ordered about let's say it's a large number in metal because my main thing is metal pins and the playmats. And same with the playmats. I've got a lot. I've got enough for 3 shows worth. And everyone who sees the numbers is like, that's a lot of money to be spending on a hope that these shows might actually happen and whatever. But I'm like, that's how this works.
If you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect anybody else to?
Yeah, I've heard that. And I just started to say, I just believe in myself now. And again, that's not to say I don't have people like you guys who got my back, right? I got friends in my artist family who are like, because you guys understand what I'm doing, right? They're like, he's not crazy. He's just being an artist. This stuff's me. Because the other thing I wrote down here when David was talking was I still remember when I met David, and it was at AluxCon. The last year was in Allentown, which I think was 2015, maybe. And I still remember you and I met. We had that little hangout in that hotel room for all the artists, and then you and I that's the first time I saw I didn't even own a Cintiq then. Okay. I had like an old school Unova that I bought, as a tablet. David had a portable Cintiq, so him and I was just like totally jealous of that for starters. But David had mentioned this idea to make dice and put it on Kickstarter, and in my head, I literally was like, I remember out loud, I told him like, dice, really? You think dice are gonna take off? Not knowing shit about dice, other than the fact that I occasionally roll dice when I play an RPG or a board game. Like I didn't. And again, I wasn't really I was still fresh to the industry, so I didn't know like how pins was another thing that people love pins. Like these are things I learned over the years. But I remember when David launched his Kickstarter, I'm like, okay, here's this thing he talked about this whole time. He's already just launched it, and yeah, I think within hours you were funded. Like it was like that, right? And I was just like, I was literally showing my wife. I was just like, look at this shit. This is the guy I told you about, right? Like, I was like, why did I listen to him back then? You know, like, why did I think that was a wild idea? And so now I don't think anything is a bad idea. When somebody says like when Brian had talked about his squishies, I was like, do it. And when Brian had talked about his stuffies, I was like, do it, right? Like, because you just never know, man. Like, you know, where that stuff's gonna go. And like, you know, I've tried to do the dice for my stuff, and I'm half in and half out, and I decided I will probably do it when I do an RPG for my stuff, but I'm not rushing that part of it, but it doesn't feel wrong to try it, right? Like, to me anyway. So, I had something else to say, but I forgot.
One of the things that, while you're thinking about that, is that first convention where I met you, Alan, and I really got to know David on the drive there. Yeah. For me, that was the first time I had gone to a convention where I didn't have like support around me. Like the Gen Con I went to before that, I brought people from Atlanta to there. The shows that I'd done prior to that were all around Atlanta, so all of my people were there. So like you guys were my first family outside of my Atlanta base, getting to know you guys over the weekend, which I think is what's, for me, has helped like make our relationship so strong.
Wolf bait for life. Yeah. I mean, I know that show. That was Spectrum is what you're talking about, and you killed it. I remember David was doing so well, he sold his banner.
That's right.
You're like, somebody just made me an offer on my banner, and I was like, sell it. Like, it was like, I remember it was enough where you're just, because I was like, you and I were talking about that. I remember it was like, you can buy a banner. They're not that expensive. Someone once offered you.
It was Bear from Monty Cook.
Oh, good job, Bear.
Nice. Nice.
I mean, because I still remember that text, and then I remember walking over to Brian's booth, and he was just like, his sculpts are just moving, and there were people talking about Brian all around me, right? They were just like, this new guy's here, and he's just making a killing, and I'm just like, who's the guy we're talking about, you know? And then when they walk me out, I'm like, oh, that's just Brian, you know, like.
He's the guy that's farting in our room all the time.
Do we really want to talk about your fart game in the rooms?
No.
Okay. If
that'll be part of the deleted scenes.
I mean,
outtakes.
There is a moment where sometimes you want to put a pillow over Brian's head and just be like, shut up.
That spectrum will always go down for me is the one where I lost half my brain cells from sniffing glue the entire ride.
Yeah, I remember when you guys pulled up, it was like you could smell it in your car. And I was like, were these guys smoking some weird weed?
I'd made those mock pro panels like the weekend before, and the carpet glue that was on like the insulation that was in between the poles holding the carpet down. I mean, even with the windows down, man, that stuff was potent.
So now we know where
it's an 11-hour drive.
So
that
that's
was very illuminating, though. I learned
you guys were basically huffing glue on a car ride, and then Brian's sitting there like, I got this idea for this game called. Now we know how you came up with Vast Grimm, because it's so trippy over here.
Exactly.
I still remember that was you bought me, I remember that was like that was the precursor to me getting bit by spiders at every fucking convention. Because like it started with Brian's air mattress, and then it just evolved into like every other goddamn hotel I stay in.
That was, it started then, because it was at Spectrum.
It was at Spectrum, yeah. And I still remember that time hanging out with you guys. I remember I was like, that was the last time I ordered a vegan pizza, because I remember you guys are all eating delicious pizza, and I'm over here eating a goddamn vegan pizza that none of you guys stopped me from ordering, because whatever, right?
Well, we to control you.
I mean, that's your thing.
That's not my thing. I'm definitely lactose intolerant, but I can eat some pizza without getting sick. I remember that's where I learned about David's coffee habits. I wanted to point out, I was looking through I'm going to switch back to Vast Grimm here. People don't need to hear about us doing stupid shit at conventions, or maybe they do. I love the fact that you guys took the concept from a lot of the Elder Dice stuff, like the books for the dice to sit in, and you brought it into the design aspect for this, because obviously Infinite Black is working with you on this, so it's kind of cool that there's something familiar here, right? I love, like, when I play D&D, you know, I use the Elder Dice, which is, somebody stole it. Oh no, it's here. My kid knocked it over. So it's right here on my desk. And this is what I roll with. And I love the fact that, it's got the built-in dice rollers. I love the design of this thing. I love on the website here, you got it doing a little shine to give off that fact that it's got, like, it speaks to me. So this project, I've said this before, it speaks to me so much on a 80s synthwave level, which is what I like, as you can tell from my shirts. But, like,
Nice
I know,
shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I don't know why it's reversed. I guess I forgot to reverse my camera on here. But
No, we're reading it right. You're just seeing it reversed.
oh, okay.
The holographic material that prints on, like seeing those in person, those grimoires are just so phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm excited to.
David did a killer job designing those, and it's just like finding, like, when I talked to David about the idea of Infinite Black publishing Vast Grimm, the idea of being able to bring the Infinite Black fans and the concept of the sci-fi horror together, and being able to marry the products with the RPG, and also the idea, like, I don't know, like when David and I work on things simultaneously or back and forth on things, they only get better. So, like, being able to collaborate on stuff has been really, really awesome for this project.
Yeah, it was a really great fit. It was a very natural thing for us to combine Vast Grimm and do some Elder Dice intertwining in the same project, because it was just, the sci-fi horror aspect of it, the passion that Brian had for the project, since the beginning, and adding in that updated, futuristic looking Elder Dice in with it was just, it's just great. And so fans of Elder Dice projects that have no clue what Vast Grimm is, which really at the beginning, nobody knew what Vast Grimm was, but being able to bring them in and get them interested in the project, and then also introduce and educate them about what Vast Grimm is and how, it could be something that they would enjoy. It was a really good thing to put together.
It's a well-executed plan, man.
Man, you should have seen all the people last night on the Nerdarchy live game that I ran before we started playing. Everybody started breaking out their Elder Dice collections. I saw one of the big libraries came out. Somebody brought out two of the 3-pack slipcases. Like, everybody was showing off their.
I've seen
dice.
On the Infinite Black's Facebook page, whenever I see people posting images of all the stuff they own, I'm just like, that's how I started learning that how much people love dice. And then you just go down the line, right? Because I looked into Brian's been, you've been helping me try to get some ideas to start ideas flowing for making dice for Ancient Ones. And initially I was like, that's really expensive. I can't sell dice at that cost if I get it made at this cost. But then you see, like, dice vendors, like, online, like, people own, like, one of my friends, Brianna, showed me, she owns, like, dice that were like $50, or $60 for this set, and they're beautiful, like, ridiculously gorgeous dice. And I'm just like, I would not want to roll those, right? Like, I'd be like, I'm just gonna leave them on the shelf, like, right. But like the rest of I own almost all the Elder Dice sets, right? This is my spare one that I roll. Every other one just sits on the shelf. Like, that's the kind of, I'm a collector, right? So that's the kind of person I am. Right. I will eventually end up rolling the rest of them at some point in my life, but for now, I'm just like, I don't want to. I'm like, it's gonna ruin the value of these dice, like. Like, I want all the dice in this Vast Grimm project. They all look beautiful. Like, I think I selected whatever. I selected a specific tier to get this thing going, but I feel like I want to go back in and get them all because they all look awesome. And then you guys fucking did the thing I knew you were going to do, which is like every other 3 or 4 days you release a new one. I'm like, you guys are fucking with me.
Well, we're done now. Everything's up. It's going to be up, I think.
I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. It's a beautiful looking set. I'm glad that you guys. I was also, we talked about this before, but I'm glad there's something that we can all work on together. Because for years I've been like, I'd love to collaborate with you both, and I think we all get along really well. So it's kind of nice.
It's been awesome to see all the art mesh together and like see different pieces like overlaid on other pieces and how they get all.
The stuff you've done with my work, I'm just, because when you first asked me about using some of my art and doing stuff, I was like, sure, man, knock yourself out, see what you can do with it, right?
Yep.
and then I see my ship as the title thing at the top, and I'm like, that's my ship, like that's cool, and
Yeah, David totally did that, coming out and distorting the worm sculpture on top of it and just kind of merging a bunch of different pieces together.
and we
But
also
this is the only project that I could see our three
sure.
artistic styles being able to be put in the same project. Because if before Vast Grimm, if you would ask me, are you ever going to be able to work with Brian and Allen on the same project?
Yeah,
I just don't see how it can happen. But
I mean,
Vast Grimm is the perfect project for that, because it's just everything is welcome. All art styles.
I mean, that's what I told Brian. I was like, man, let's make an Ancient Ones RPG after this. I would love to. That would be something I'd love to do. One thing this has done for me working with Brian, I've mentioned this, I think I mentioned this to you too, David, is it's got me thinking about what an RPG in my world would look like, which in turn has got me creating. I've already created, like you and I talked about this, Brian, about trying to make it down to one book only, but I've already created, I started creating 12. I've got 12 species already created, because in my head I was like, how do you make an RPG? Like, what would your characters consist of, right? And then artifacts and all that stuff. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I know it's something, which is more than what I had, which was nothing, right? I had these 5 characters plus these 5. I think I had 4 or 5 side characters that I created for the book itself when I got book 1 done and out the door. Because in my head I was like, you need characters in these stories to help push your story forward. But I never calculated in depth, where do these characters come from? What abilities do these characters have? What do they do other than help push the story forward for the main character in my book, right? If that makes sense. But now I'm thinking of it on a different level, which is how do you bring these into a game? So somebody wants to play Tolja's, my Knight of Jupiter species. The dude's got 4 arms and a head that can come off, right? Maybe.
Right. How do you make it playable? How do you make it something that they're going to be excited about playing?
Yeah, exactly. If you're playing Neptune, she's essentially a space mermaid. Wow, you're glowing.
Sorry, it's getting dark outside, so
so the lights come on.
Close my blind.
I just keep talking. If I turn my lights on, you'll see the mess behind me. I'm just kidding. It's a printer and some artwork. But it's kind of neat. Like Dave was saying, it's awesome that finally the time was perfect and there was a project that we can all work on together. It was bound to happen eventually, because we're all in the same circles and good friends. So I'd love to work with more of my friends on a project if I could, but I feel like a lot of, sometimes you just butt heads with other artists. Sometimes artists can't work with other artists. It's just what it boils down to.
And also, I mean, you could be best friends, but if the art styles don't fit,
right,
one might fit a project, but the other one won't, And that's the reason why I thought that, we would never have the opportunity, just because our art styles, the subject matter and the styles,
they're
and
vastly
everything
different. Yeah, you've got a very horror themed thing going. Brian's got a very 80s cartoon, creatures and kid friendly kind of stuff happening, and I've got I did a bunch of acid and created this 80s hybrid art style going. And just so anyone's listening, I don't do drugs. It just turns out that way. I do drink a lot of whiskey though, not as much.
And this is one of the things that going into this, when Ross and I were talking about the overall aesthetic, even though we wanted each page spread to be different than the other, even though it feels like it ties in together because they're all different. But also we wanted it to all have that kind of mixed media feel, especially because I had brought sculptures into the mix, and having that 3-dimensional piece in it, I wanted it to feel like everything could fit together if it was all mashed up.
I mean, you did a good job of I'm looking at for example, the worm with the ship, and your piece is actually, that worm is actually the sculpture, and then the ship is actually a 2D piece that I did. But it looks awesome when you put both of them together, right? I'm guessing David did the colors on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And you should see the all the pages of the book. There's lots of weird and crazy stuff going on between the 2 covers.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's true. But Brian just touched on it. while it is weird and crazy and I don't want to say chaotic, but almost chaotic, it all fits together nicely.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what, that's perfect. I see that in a lot of these illustrations. I've only seen a handful of stuff that Brian shared with me, really. So, I can.
It's almost done. There's only a handful of spreads left, so it's getting close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see if I can get one or two more things to you to see if I can get some more stuff in there, but we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to think.
The clock is ticking. I don't think you're going to make it.
But
there will be future things.
I mean, I got the weekend, right?
Right.
This is our last project, Alan. If you don't get in on this, we're done.
This is my chance.
Yeah.
The door shuts.
You're like, fuck the Ancient Ones RPG. You fucked up. We're done. Game over, motherfucker.
We do have another, like... What's that, David?
I was just saying, we've used up all of our creative energy on this.
This is it? Yep.
Because we've unlocked all these bonus adventures.
Yeah.
Like, we have 9 written adventures by guest authors that are part of the stretch goals that everybody's getting. Whether you just get one set of dice or you get the book and everything else, you're going to get that as a PDF. So we're going to,
that's cool.
Ross and I are going to do the layout and design those. So there's going to be new art and elements that work into those based on the stories and stuff that these guest authors write. So there's going to be additional art that's going to be created. But for the core book, that's coming to a close very soon because I want that to be as wrapped up as possible as it could be by the end of the campaign.
So you're saying even if people just get the dice set without getting a book or anything, they're going to get these extra adventures? That's great.
These PDFs of these adventures, because I want them to. I'm like the pusher. It's like I want you to get a taste and be like, "Wow, this is cool. Why don't I have the book?"
Right. I mean, come on, man. People should get the book. It's actually very affordable on this Kickstarter.
It is. Game Found.
I'll drop a link on the video once it's. Can I drop a link here? Let me see. Hang on. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. I think I can do that because this is my show.
And if anybody's watching and has any questions, you can feel free to ask. Alan will keep his eyes on the things. And
yeah, please feel free to ask questions. I was hoping I'd have more questions, but it hasn't happened yet.
And luckily, just going back to talking about everybody getting the PDFs, whether you only got a set of dice or whatever. Luckily, most people that have pledged will be receiving at least one book. So obviously the book is very popular with them, so that's good to see.
It's for me, it's been super thrilling. I mean, the only other crowdfunding project that I've been on that has had close to this many backers was Cartography, and that a couple of days ago, I've been screenshotting certain milestones, personal milestones for me, and when we broke that number of backers, that was huge for me because that means there's going to be so many people that are going to be playing this game a few months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, Gen Con next year, as long as COVID can de-escalate, should be a pretty good year for Vast Grimm.
And that's going to be a really special feeling for you, I know, when you're walking around after the exhibit hall's closed and you're going through and seeing people playing games, and then all of a sudden you see a gaming group with a bunch of Vast Grimm books at the table playing the game. That's going to be really cool. I mean, I remember that moment, seeing people using Elder Dice out in the wild, and I was like, wow, this is awesome, because I'm used to being in isolation, and, it's cool to see people actually out there using the stuff that you make.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Well, I don't have that feeling yet, but I do see people occasionally with my playmats and stuff. But I do get to see. What I have found is occasionally I will see stuff that my friends make out in the wild. Like I was hanging out with some friends a couple of weeks back, and someone was showing me dice because I was talking about dice, and what they were showing me was David's dice, and I was just like,
nice.
I was like, I know the asshole that makes those. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, man. And then, there's always like that whatever feeling from them. They're like, okay, well, I'm in the industry. So it's almost a good chance I know somebody that made something that you purchased, right? Like, depends on how well.
I mean, it's not that big.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people like. They don't. A lot of people don't get that part of our. We see it because we're in it, and it's really there's a core group of a couple of us. It's kind of small, and then it spreads out from there, and then it's like people coming in still, right? There's a lot of students and a lot of people learning. There's a ton of artists, obviously. There's thousands of us, right? But the core is like, I don't know, 500, maybe less, and then
especially the core artists that go to conventions and things is a lot of times you see the same people, and so obviously when you're hanging out and talking, you get to know, you become friends with them and everything, and those are people that play a role in a lot of these products that end up hitting the shelves in one way or another.
Yeah, it's funny. Go ahead, Brian.
Like you meet people at these shows, and then they may be much further along in their career in the industry, and you can hit them up and they'll give you advice and kind of help guide you and give you suggestions on what, especially like on the business side of things, because the three of us tend to have an art first with the entrepreneurial business side attached to it.
Yes.
So having the business side and having some other people that you can reach out to and that you've become friends with because you've met in person and because you've built a rapport at these shows, that you can ask things that usually it's a lot easier to have guidance that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice now. Like when I started out, I didn't really have a lot of guidance, I guess. I kind of I winged it a lot, right? I just did whatever I felt was right and I ran with it. Because there was a time where I had like fucking buttons, I remember. I had iPhone cases, actually. They sold really well. But there's a lot of cell phones. It's really hard to maintain that market. But over the years, I built that, like you were saying, Brian. Over the years, I built a solid foundation of people I can trust to ask questions to that will give me. And Brian and David, you two are definitely on that list of people. I've asked you guys a ton of questions over the years. Like I asked David for tons of advice for my book Kickstarter.
Build up this book. I keep track of all the questions you ask
me. Yeah, Brian gets the bulk of my questions.
Notebook, by the way, that's his fifth one.
Yeah, Brian gets the bulk of all my questions because I bother him on Discord all the time. David just ignores me, I think. So I'm just kidding. You suck at Discord. That's what it is. No, like David gave me a bunch of advice last year when I launched my book because I launched the book in the middle of a pandemic. So there was that like, what do I do right? What can I do to prevent it from failing completely? And it obviously funded. Brian's giving me tons of advice on dealing with vendors and ordering products, and like we all kind of like bounce ideas off each other. But like you said, Brian, we definitely have the art first mentality, and that's always been my make the art first because you love making art, right? Like you love making these things, and then you focus on the business side of things. Because if you go the other way, I feel like you typically end up tripping and failing.
Or you're just selling out. I mean, art first was what Infinite Black was born. That was the idea, that was the goal, and that's is still the goal. Really, is art first. And if you stay true to that, and you're making things you're passionate about, and you're trying to create pieces of art with these things, then people will appreciate that. And if you can find that audience that connects with the thing that you're creating, then they really appreciate the extra steps that you go to that a lot of people that are business first, they don't really even consider or think about.
Yeah, I had a friend once tell me like, I'm going to misquote him because I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was something similar to like, when you put business first, people can usually tell. And when you put your art first, people can tell because we're really passionate about the things we talk about, right? And you would know that if you spend like 5 minutes at our table just talking to us, right? Like you come to my table.
Don't spend that long. We need to make other sales.
Yeah, 2 minutes is your max. Get the fuck out of here when we're done. But it's totally kidding. If you come to my booth, I'm immediately going to tell you about my Ancient Ones project. I'm going to tell you that this is a series I've been writing. I'm going to tell you about the artwork. I'm going to tell you there's a story there, right? Like I want to talk about it. And if you ask me more questions about it, I'm going to obviously talk to you as long as you want to hear about it, right? And you'll slowly learn that I'm not really, when people come to my booth, I rarely am not wasting time. I'm rarely trying to like pitch you on buying the thing that's sitting there. Like, I want you to want what I've made. Like, I want you to take that thing and walk away with it saying, oh, I bought it because I want to support this artist because he's awesome and I really like this thing, right? I don't want you to buy that thing because I'm like trying to like kind of sales pitch you into buying it. Because then you're going to walk away thinking, did I really want to buy this? Like, why did I fucking buy this playmat, you know, or whatever you bought, right? Why did I buy these squishies? You know, like...
Well, you're not only buying a product, you're also buying the person that created the product, right. The passion behind it, you know, is, yeah, it might be a cool piece of art, but the person that created it, you know, you have a few minutes to like buy in and believe in that person. Like, what type of person is this? Are they somebody that I could like? Are they in it for the money? Are they in it for the love? You know, that sort of thing. And all that stuff can come across fairly quickly in that short amount of time that you have to communicate with someone. And, you know, a lot of people, that's what ends up, the reason being why they make that purchase is because A, it looked cool and caught their eye enough to get them to stop. And then B, you know, you drove it home as an artist because, you know, you showed them the passion and you told them the story behind it and all of this thing. So, you know, that makes them that much more proud of the thing that they have, and they can share that with people that look at it.
Yeah, and that's the feeling I would say we chase, right? Like, that's what we want.
Oh yeah,
like, I can see that in all your stuff. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
I mean, and that's like at conventions, like the enthusiasm that people have when seeing your work is like, that's something you can't get anywhere else. You can't get that on the internet. You can't. Like seeing people excited about something that you've created, something that seeing it in person is like a weird sense of like something that can help get you from show to show, or like, and really give you confidence to continue making more stuff.
Yeah, I feel like last year really took its toll on us in that area, because like I love the feeling of like when I'm at a show and somebody walks up and was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. I was looking all over for you. And you're like, me? You know, like, you know, or
right.
You have that fan base that David mentioned, having the fans. And like I was going to say is I see that with your fans, Brian. I see that with Infinite Black fans. Like, they love what you guys make. They love what I make. Obviously, my fans love what I make, to the point where some of my fans, you know, in 2019 when we had shows, had gotten to a point where they'd give me a hard time when they come to my booth, right? Like, where's my book? You promised me this book for, you know, 3 years. I'm still waiting on this book. And it's like, and even, you know, as the 2020 was starting, I got crap from people, and I was like, it's coming. I'm kickstarting. It's going to go. And then now that I have the book, I kind of can reverse that at them, right? I'd be like, hey, here's the book you asked about, you know, like, you going to buy it? Or are you still going to, you know? And I'm looking forward to, hopefully it's safe enough to go to shows in September, and I'm looking forward to being at the booth, and like people coming up and being like, here it is. I did the thing, you know, and I finally got it out the door. And it's going to be fun. Hopefully, you know, we'll see. I'm still a little nervous about it all, but, yeah, I guess that, and it's hard to explain that to, like, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, like, initially, it took me a certain amount of time before I got my family to kind of jump in on the crazy that is me, right? Like, because they see us doing these things and making these moves, and like shows, for example, you know, like I come from a family that's like, you know, family first. Everyone's got to be available all the time. We're going to do these things. Why aren't you in town? Why are you always out? You know, and shows are what helped us get where we are at, right? Like, of course, we don't want to drive away from our family for weeks at a time. Like, I know David's got 4 kids, right? Right. So like, I'm already thinking about, and Brian's got 2 kids, and this is my first time. Like, when I went to shows in 2019, Violet was, you know, very young. She was only 1, and not even 1 yet, right? So it's kind of like easy street for me to leave and come back. She didn't really care one way or another if I was in the room. But now I'm thinking about that, you know, like, I'm gonna be gone for like weeks at a time. It's gonna take its own toll. And people don't see all that, right? They don't see us as putting in the work. They see us as abandoning our families, which is like, we're doing this for our families to a certain degree too, right? Like, I show my kid that when she's older, I'm gonna be able to be like, look, man, I worked hard on what I really loved, which is art. And then here I set all this up, right?
And you should follow whatever you're passionate about as well. Whatever you love to do, you should follow it and chase it and make it happen, because you can make whatever you want happen.
As long as it's not killing people, we're golden, man. Like
Right.
And even then, cool. You want to be Dexter, knock yourself out. Totally joking. Don't go killing people.
Yes, please don't.
But I would love, that would be an awesome thing to, like I could see it in my cousins now. I could see it in like my nephews and nieces. Like the kids can obviously see the stuff you're doing, right? They see that you're creating these awesome things. It's the older parents and some of the older, a lot of my cousins were like, "You're crazy. What are you doing? You're wasting your time." Like I remember when I started out, I got a lot of that. You're wasting your time talk. And you just keep doing it. And, I think we're all doing great from where we've been. Making your own comics.
I don't know. People have I've always gone after whatever, and people either get behind you or they don't. And the people that get behind you are the ones that are still with you years later.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, like I still remember David and I sitting in that hotel, the Aladdin. No, what was it called? The one for Allentown. Was it the Aladdin?
No, that was Spectrum.
That's Spectrum. I can't remember what that hotel was called. I had to stay in a hotel down the street because I made a last-minute decision to go to LuxCon, right? But I still remember David telling me about this idea for dice, man. and just being boggled, like, didn't make any sense to me. Because I was also there just trying to get portfolio reviews. And that was one of my first times hanging out with all those artists, right? Like, I've never been in a room with so many, like, if anyone's ever been to LuxCon, it's just artists hanging out, right? Like, it'll blow your damn mind. Like, if you're not ready for it, we've come a long way. That's all I gotta say. I'm just gonna keep waxing poetic if I don't stop. But what is the next convention we're all at? Is it Gen Con?
Yeah,
Gen Con. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm only doing 2 this year. It'll be Gen Con and Origins, and then.
Okay, I'll see you at both of those. Yeah, I'm doing Dragon Con, and we'll see how it goes. I'm a little nervous about Georgia. You guys in Georgia?
Yeah, we got some stupid people here. I guarantee. Yeah.
Dragon Con is crazy on a normal year. I don't know. It's gonna be.
I mean, I think I'm just gonna do I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna show up and see where it goes. Right. That's all you can really do. And then I'm hopeful that people actually come out. I feel like
they will.
I think they will come out. I feel like it'll be a good year. And going back to what I was saying about setting up connections, I think I don't want to like, I think a lot of people look at what I do as like using my connections for my own benefit. I'm like, maybe, but it's not really. Brian, like, so my example for this is I messaged Brian because he's got a warehouse in Georgia, and I said, can I ship a pallet of books to you versus driving with all this weight in my car? Like, I don't mind taking all that weight in the minivan for a 40-minute drive to the convention hall to unload, but 12 to 13 hours in the car with it, I feel like I might blow out a wheel, like
that's always the scariest thing when you're like loaded up, like completely loaded up for a show, and it's like, okay, am I going to make this 10-11 hour drive, or is something terrible going to happen? Which is why I tend to like leave like 6 to 8 hours way ahead of when I need to go, or a day ahead of when I need to, just in case something horrible happens.
I mean, I've driven to shows with like, I now own a Subaru Outback, which it can haul enough weight when I have to move, but my wife needs that car. Regardless, I used to own an old 2003 Toyota Camry, which is what I would load up to shows, like including some of the shows we've been at, and that thing was just low ride all the way to the convention, right? And the whole time I'd be like, please don't.
Speed bumps.
Yeah, I'd be like, please God, don't let me blow out a wheel because I'm in the middle of Indiana. This is the last place I want to change a tire, but like, so my point of that story was to say, like, so I've got like, these, I work the networks I've set up, right? Like, if I need help, I ask for help. Like, I've asked, Brian's helped me with a ton of shit, man. Some of the pins that I'm selling, Brian helped design them, it's just, I'd be like, I don't know the first thing about pin design. Brian's got a warehouse. I didn't think about it till a little later in the game, but I was like, wait a minute, can I just ship a pallet of books to your warehouse? Like, So, like I was,
Well, and I've had people ship stuff to me for Dragon Con 2 years ago. Like Tyler and Eli both shipped stuff to me, and
I
you
mean, in
shipped stuff to me.
2019, you helped me out. In 2019, Brian took all my shit from Gen Con that didn't sell, drove it all the way to Georgia, which because my next show was Dragon Con in 2 weeks. And when I showed up to Georgia, I was able to travel with 2 bags full of stuff. So I didn't have to drive. I was able to fly. And then you just showed up with all my stuff, and it was amazing. It was a good year for me too, right? I won an award there.
Yeah.
And that's why. That's one of the reasons I'm coming back to Dragon.
I think that you won the award because of me.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Wow.
It was very well stored.
Yeah, the metal showed up. It was pristine. It wasn't damaged.
Yes.
I think Brian might have buffed it down with a little turtle wax. Gave it an extra glow. The extra glow helped, and that piece won. Right, it won back.
Like really gave it that pop.
So maybe I should give you my best in show booth, Brian, and
Okay,
I'll be like, this is up to Brian. This is Brian, But you said you're not doing Dragon Con this year, so sorry.
Yeah. No.
We're a little bit over an hour, which is not a problem. But is there anything extra you guys want to add about Vast Grimm that everyone should know? The only thing I can say about it is it's funded, but it's an awesome project, and I think everyone should get in on this while they can, because why not? It's cool. You got dice.
I'll tell you something that your fans might dig, because a lot of us are collectors. We have an exclusive holographic cover that's only available on GameFound.
Oh.
It's got the Astro Zombie on the front. It's got the worm infestation on the back. Once those copies are gone from GameFound, that won't be offered again. So if you're on the fence about it, I would get it just for that, but you're going to love the game. Everybody that I've run a crazy amount of games over the past 3 weeks, way more than I've run probably in the year leading up to this. And at least the past 4 games in a row, the people that played asked if they could continue on their game as that same group and keep the story going outside of this one shot. So to me, that's a testament to the game and how fun it is for the people that are playing.
Exactly. I mean, and you're not going to get better pricing either than on the campaign as well, because everything is reduced down. And I mean, if you ever go to the website and look at prices, I mean, we just can't touch it. And
you've done a great job of showing the sets versus what it would actually cost if you don't get it here.
Right.
Which is, if anyone looked 3 sets of Vast Grimm Elder Dice are $49, but they would actually cost you $75. So that's a stat right there alone. That's 3 sets right there, man. I can pitch this all day. I need to figure out where this holographic cover is, because I don't see it on my pledge.
So in the book, you can select regular cover or holographic cover, or if you just look at the add-ons of the book, you can click on it and you can see in the slideshow what the cover is. We had a poll to let people decide. We gave them 6 different options for what the cover could be.
I just got to edit it before it's over. Okay.
Yep. And two of them were leaps and bounds beyond all the other ones. So we put the one that was the number 1 choice on the front and the one that was the second choice on the back.
Nice.
Because this is an exclusive cover and it's not going to really be in retail except for a handful of retailers that are backing the campaign.
Sure.
There's no logo on the front. It's just this is an art book on the front, and it's really just more. It's a special piece.
Did yours end up winning? I remember you were pretty stoked about it being yours.
So out of all 6, there were 4 that were very graphic design heavy, and 2 that were art heavy. And the 2 that were art heavy were the ones that took it away. So nice. I was surprised, and I was really happy about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I posted the links in the chat. I will post it again in the video. 4 days left. Hopefully, you don't need to fund. You funded, so hopefully you get a couple more backers, which would be nice. I think this GameFound thing is a brilliant idea. I really didn't look into this too much until you guys were talking about it. Anyone listening, there are a couple exclusives on here, so obviously it's the only place you can get it. So that's how you get in on those. Unless there's anything else you guys want to add, anything about life or Vast Grimm.
Nice.
Be nice to people. Exactly. It doesn't. Oh man, I really wish people could drive that point home.
Just easier.
That's the other concern I have with some of these shows, man. I feel like You guys know me, man. It's gonna take a lot out of me to be patient, but I'll try not to. I don't drink as much anymore, so it should be good.
Will Mr. Panakal get escorted out?
I'm yet to be escorted out. I'm usually the victim, sir. But
Unless a kid stands in front of your table for 5 minutes straight and doesn't.
I mean, he's
somebody puts their jacket down on your table.
You guys know as well as I do. You know someone's gonna buy something or someone's just wasting your time. We can do a whole show about con etiquette if you want, and it will blow people's minds at how we operate the booth. I would love to actually do something like that because I think a lot of people don't realize that we're just people trying to do a thing, right? And sometimes we're in a bad mood. Sometimes you're causing the bad mood, like. I mean,
sometimes we don't let you know that you're causing.
Yeah, sometimes we will definitely let you know you're the cause for the bad mood, and you should get to step in.
Improve my mood and move along.
Move along. Yeah, you're not gonna buy anything. Gets to step in. But thanks for being on. I appreciate you guys getting on so late at night.
Thanks for having us.
Oh man, yeah.
I definitely would like to have you guys on for another topic of some sort. Cool. Maybe be to talk about how Brian's hat's got green under the lid.
Yep. I need to like Sharpie it up and just make all sorts of things under it, or
do you hear the doorbell ringing?
Just get different samples.
Something under it.
Just spray paint it, man. Oh no, you know what you do is get the fat. There's the markers they use for when you write on shirts when you go like bachelor party bar hopping.
The puff paint?
Not the puff paint.
I don't know what you speak of.
I mean, I've only seen things. I don't get invited to these parties. Have you met us?
I just kind of
nobody invites us to
and
these
watch
things.
People go from bar to bar.
Well, there's a fat like black marker that they make. It's probably a permanent marker, but it's really designed for apparel. You just get that and just color it in, or get a better hat made. All right. Well, I'm gonna take us offline, so give me a second. And
goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for watching. I'll post links to all this under the chat. I think my next week, my guests I think are Andrew Sides and Carrie Drake, I believe, and we're going to talk about Secret Wars, Marvel's Secret Wars, which seems like is what is happening with the new MCU universe as well. So it'll be hopefully fun. We'll see.
Didn't that happen in like the late 80s?
Man, a Secret War happens like every 10 years. Get it together. You're so not into comics.
Well, everything that happened in the 80s is happening again because.
Yep.
I mean, welcome to Vast Grimm, but that's the 90s, right?
No, it's a little of both.
It's a little bit of both. I'll say real quick. I feel like Vast Grimm does definitely have an 80s vibe to it, and so did the 90s. So depends on where you landed in that era, right? And that's one of the